no, as far as that was my mother. She was very English, and I remember my father had an expression for her. Uh, he would call her. Her last name was Dill, and he would call her "Everything is lovely, Dill." Because she was very English. How are you? Lovely, lovely. Everything's wonderful, fine, fine. Carry on. Is that British quality of carrying on? And yes, that part of diplomacy. You're absolutely right. I will thank my mother for. Dad, I loved him with all my heart, but he was a tough guy. He mellowed later in his life when he had a helicopter crash and a stroke. He found religion, became a writer, and really changed the third act of his life. So I'm keeping. This year I turn 80. So I'm going to keep that in mind about what I learned from him in the latter part of your life. But you have to give yourself a goal. So I said, all right, 15 more years. And so now I'm easing up. I mean, if there's a great part comes along with a wonderful group, I'm happy to do it. But I'm enjoying different parts of my life. I'm hoping to get back to Brazil again soon. The mother of my grandchildren is Brazilian, Vivian Thebes.
And your granddaughter, she's called Lua.
Lua.
You know what the name means in Portuguese, don't you?
The moon.
The moon.
Yeah,
it's a
Louis.
beautiful name.
And both kids, both my grandchildren speak fluent Portuguese. So
wow.
Because they go down, they come back to Sao Paulo and Rio every year for about 6 weeks. They go back to Vivian's home and sees her relatives, and she felt it's important. And I think also that she has an ability to talk to her kids, and my son Cameron doesn't know what they're talking about, So he did not say. What he said was, Michael, you are terrible. He said, you are terrible. He said, and he was so happy. He said, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about my son trying to become an actor. We run at a very high unemployment issue and all of that. And I was not a natural, that's for sure. I had tremendous stage fright and very nervous. So it took me a while, but by the time I graduated from the university, I remember clearly, he said, Michael, you're okay. You're all right.
Oh.
And wished me well. It was a good pat on the back. And I miss him dearly. It's terrible how much you think about somebody after they pass away and the things you wish you said. But he was a great man, very, very, very accomplished. The advantage was watching growing up, just when you were with my father and his friends, just like anybody else, they're friends. I mean, his friends happened to be Frank Sinatra and Gregory Peck and Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh. But you got to see these stars as real people. You got to see their insecurities and realize that they were the same as everybody else. They happened to have a business that made them known throughout the world, but they were the same human beings. So I think it allowed me to control or handle both my successes and failures with a more balanced state. You had much more of an image of how to behave. On the other side of that, you never wanted to embarrass, your parents, especially if they were well known. So you may have tended to be more conservative in a lot of ways in your actions. And for me as an actor, really, it was not until in the 80s when I did Fatal Attraction, which was a big commercial success, and Wall Street, which I won an actor for as Best Actor, that I felt that I stepped out of the shadow of my father, So I think it takes a long time. I know there's a going around right now, there's a lot of talk about, what do they call them, newbies or second generation kids in the business. It's newbies. Like every business I know, a father or a mother tries to get their children help them in the business. They all go in, but somehow they've taken more of an attack on show business for that reason. Because
family is the first enterprise
yeah,
humankind made up. Yeah, it
and
is.
our history is not very good. There's not many actors or actresses that have succeeded where their parents have. As a short, I was able to work with Jane Fonda, but that was with her father, and of course Jeff Bridges. So it was a different situation, and I think that was probably the most. And then of course you're just around the set when you're growing up, and you see how movies are made or the behavior and all of that. But I think the big part of it was that you stayed grounded. You really stayed grounded.